Intermission and Postgame show this side of the Mississippi South, the Arctic Circle, north of the equator. And my friends, Anthony SanFilippo has gotten much better dressed than normal. Kevin Kurz is here from The Athletic. How are you doing, Kevin?
Good, Russ. How's it going?
It's a delightful.
How was the dunk tank?
It was very cold.
Yeah.
It was very cold. I'm holding out hope. It's like, what, 3 days or so is when you have the potential of getting sick, right?
Jesus, yeah.
And at this point, nothing to report, so I think I'm okay.
That's good. I'll sit over here just in case. I'll move away.
I don't blame you. But no, it's Carnival was great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. A lot of fun, a lot of people out there, and we heard from a lot of people who were grateful that we did the show on Sunday because NBC Sports Philly, for whatever reason, they don't air it. Apparently spring training was on, but they have the NBC Sports Philadelphia Plus.
Okay.
But I guess it must be very, very hard to take the equipment from the studio that's in this building and just shoot some video.
Yeah, they did used to air it back when I worked for the team, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
So I don't totally understand what the dealio is there and why they don't air it, but we did our show, and if you missed it out there, friends, we had Brad Shaw, we had Lou Nolan, Jim Jackson, we had Keith Jones, we had Dan Hilferty, Wayne Simmons was on. Oh, Wayne Simmons was that was a must-see segment about the four nations and about the difference between the NBA and the NHL. But we are not here to talk about that. We are here because tonight is the Battle of the Keystone State.
Yep.
Two teams with playoff aspirations going head-to-head here in Wells Fargo Center. That's not happening.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah. It would take like a 10-game winning streak.
It would take a lot. It would take a lot, and it's not going to happen. But when you look at this...
I will say,
okay, go ahead.
There are teams right now that are in playoff position that are basically selling. Like, the Boston Bruins, right, are selling. The Rangers are god-awful. They might sell. So, much to the chagrin of fans that are hoping the Flyers tank, this is still a young team that's trying to bust their butts every night. There is the potential they could leapfrog some of these teams. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying that. But there's a chance they end up in that mushy middle again and end up with, the 15th pick in the draft.
I've never pushed anyone over the glass here, but keep that up with the playoff talk.
Yeah.
I do want to show people this is where Russ is a loony, but this is the reality entering tonight. The Flyers enter with the 7th best odds right now of getting to that top pick, which probably won't happen. Lottery luck doesn't smile favorably on the Flyers very often, and when it does, you get James Van Riemsdyk instead of Patrick Kane.
Yeah, or Nolan Patrick instead of Cale Makar,
or Heiskanen, or Pettersson. Any of those guys
I don't know about that. I might have dodged a bullet on that one. But.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Pettersson, even if he's not exactly a great locker room guy relative to Nolan with the concussions, I don't know. Anyway, Pittsburgh is right there in the mix, and this is what I call a 4-point game. It's a potential 4-point swing.
Or 8 points with the home and home, right?
Yes, correct. So this is where, if you're a psycho like me, you look at this and you say, while you might love the team, you might love the idea of the Flyers going out and beating Pittsburgh because everybody hates Pittsburgh and hates Crosby, a regulation win tonight is catastrophic potentially if you're trying to avoid that mushy middle, whether it is that, hey, being 7, being 6, the 5th spot, versus what could end up being that very jumbled together 5 through 14, let's say.
Yep.
You don't want to be entering a potential draft lottery with the 14th best odds of moving up. It's complicated.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I can tell you they're not going to try to lose the game either.
Well, nobody's actively trying. I've gotten yelled at many times. Nobody actively tries to lose. But I do want to get your opinion here because you've been here before. You understand this rivalry. I think the teeth of this rivalry have kind of gotten taken out in recent years, especially with this Flyers team not being particularly good. Do you still think that the fans and the players get up for Flyers Penguins in the same way that they used to?
Well, no, not the same as it was in 2018, I guess was probably the most recent time it was really sort of firing on all cylinders, right, when the last time they met in the playoffs. Interestingly, I thought John Tortorella mentioned it between the 2 final games before the break. I believe it was Washington and the Penguins, and he was talking the day before the Penguins game that, we should get up for this game because it is Pittsburgh. And I think the players probably get up for it. At least the guys that have been here for a long time, the Sanheims, the Konechnys,
the Laughtons.
Yeah, guys like that. I'm sure they get up for it. But yeah, it's not quite, not quite like it was in, I remember 2008, 2009, all those years, and it's not quite like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't sit well with a lot of Flyers fans if Pittsburgh ends up with the 4th overall pick and the Flyers end up with, the 12th.
It's the kind of thing that makes me lose sleep at night. It's funny.
No, but the 4th overall pick is also never guaranteed to be better than the 12th overall pick.
That is correct. Now, this is the thing, though. So we've had a bunch of people on over the last few weeks, and it seems like the consensus is 3 very good players at the top of the draft, 4th maybe, but maybe a step down, and then 5 through 15, we'll say, are essentially the same potential ceiling, is what a lot of people are saying. My very long-held belief here is, while that may be true, I'd much rather be able to lean on my scouts and have their choice and have the organization's choice at 5 and be able to pick the best of those 10 players rather than be at 12 and have maybe missed out on many of the players that you thought could actually be better than many of the pundits believe. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you go through every draft. I was having a discussion with Mark Spector from Edmonton the other night. The Oilers, they thought they were getting a gift when they got Jesse Puljujarvi at 4th overall that year, and Columbus took Pierre-Luc Dubois. They thought Puljujarvi, wow, everyone thought he was going to go 3, and they got him at 4, and he's a bust. So you can have those discussions until the cows come home, especially with I think everybody these days is able to recognize who the top guys are in every draft, right? I listen to those guys, but. Even if it's top heavy and it's only 3 guys, it's not like you can't potentially find a gem at 12. Now, I'm not saying
maybe you could.
I'm not saying the Flyers should aim for the 12th overall pick instead of the 4th overall pick. Yeah. Of course, it's better to have the 4th, 5th, 6th, or whatever than it is to have a later round pick. But and then I see stuff online. Jet Luchenko, his ceiling's a 3rd-line center. What the? How the hell would anybody know that? First of all, the guy, I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but I did see him in Edmonton in the 2nd or 3rd game of the season hang with Connor McDavid and do a pretty good job against him, skating up and down the ice with him.
Yep.
So to say this guy's ceiling is a 3rd-line center and Zeev Bouillon is a potential number 1, we don't know.
Well,
we don't know. That might be. But
even looking out here in the comments, I just saw it. I don't know where it is now. But there was somebody saying that Denoye has the potential of being a 1C. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't watch these guys.
Not,
I listen to the. I don't have time to watch the prospects when I'm covering this team. But we have very good prospect writers at theathletic.com. I will tell you whose opinions I value.
So let's talk about a guy that you do watch, and it's a guy that we all watch, and it's a guy who should have been dealt 18 months ago, but here we are. Scott Laughton, likely to be traded, I would think. There was a nice picture the other day. I don't remember if it was you or who it was.
Yeah, it was me with his kid out there. That was nice.
And the wee little child.
Yeah.
Almost saying like, hey, this is where I played for a long time, but probably not much longer. I mean, realistically, it feels like this is the most open the Flyers have been in 2 years to dealing Scott Laughton. But do you think ultimately when push comes to shove, trade deadline passes, will Scott Laughton be a Flyer or do you think he'll be elsewhere?
It sounds about 50-50 right now. I will take issue with you saying he should have been traded 18 months ago. They might get, if they get a first-round pick and a prospect for him this time from Toronto, then Danny will have been validated in waiting, right? And I still think there was value keeping around Scott Laughton as they went through that transition of trying to flip the culture in the dressing room. So I'm a big believer in that stuff. I know people like to rip me for it. But I just watched the report. Darren Dreger from TSN, who's as connected as anyone. It sounds like the price for Laughton, this is according to Darren Dreger, is a first-round pick or an equivalent prospect. Or, and again, this is his report, if the Flyers had to take a contract back from Toronto, then the price goes up. But the Leafs are also looking at Braden Shen, who is a guy that Flyers fans know well. So, if the Maple Leafs go out and trade Braden Shen, then Scott Laughton might not go anywhere. So fans should have to be prepared for that. Because I will tell you right now, they are not just going to dump him to Winnipeg for a second-round pick without him approving it first. They're very clear from Keith Jones, Briere, Dan Hilferty on down, we need to make this a place where players want to come and players want to play. Scott Laughton's the most respected guy in the dressing room, flat out. If the other players in the room see Danny Briere just dump him to a team that he doesn't want to really go to, especially after the tragedy he just went through with his family, that's not going to sit well. That's going to piss everybody off in the room. That's not something they want to do. Now, he's from Toronto. That makes some sense. And if you get a first-round pick from the Maple Leafs in 2026, when you only have one first-round pick right now, I can see why that is something that I think the players in the room would understand and they'd be on board with. And if you're Scott Laughton, Christ, you go to Toronto to be a part of a Stanley Cup run for probably 2 years. I mean, there's worse things to do with your life.
Well, Toronto's always looking for defensemen, too, and the Flyers happen to have a few. And just based on comments that Bradshaw had on this show at the Carnival and some other things that we've heard from Keith Jones, especially in recent weeks, I think that they're all very cognizant of the fact that Cup-winning teams don't find themselves rife with small defensemen. This team has a lot of them, whether you're looking at I would argue that Cam York is a smaller defenseman. Maybe he's a little bit more built, still a small guy. Jamie Drysdale's a small guy, even Emil Andre, not a big guy. Like, it stands to reason that if a Toronto wants to have that conversation, I don't know, do you consider, if it's a first this year, if it's a conditional next year, do you entertain the idea of a Scott Laughton and maybe a Cam York up to Toronto, and it means you get back a high pick either this year or next year, and then you get something else, maybe a change of scenery, maybe you're getting a guy.
You're saying trade Cam York to the Maple Leafs?
I'm saying like throw him in there with Laughton if it gets you better overall value. I don't know. I think that there are teams that have kind of poked around about Cam York.
Yeah, see, the way I look at Cam York is that's more a guy I would consider if I'm trying to put together a package in the summer for a top-line center. I think that's a guy that would have some interest from other teams. Now, who that could be, I don't know, but you're right about what Bradshaw said. He said it to us the other day, and I asked the question. You have Emil Andre probably coming pretty soon. You've got Cam York, you got Jamie Drysdale, and basically he was honest. He said, yeah, that's probably too small of a blue line. That's probably not something we would want to go with. So, to me, it's the competition, internal competition with certainly Drysdale and York, and maybe Andre thrown in the mix there. One of them's probably going to have to go between the time this team becomes a hopeful contender, which they want to be.
I'm not a big York believer. Is there anything that you see in his game that makes you say, oh, no, he's a guy that you definitely want to have as part of this core going forward? He's an essential component.
Yeah, a lot of his underlying metrics are good. I do think back to the second half of last year when he was their best defenseman. I do think he does play a little bit bigger than his size. Is he a top pair guy on a contending team? I think the jury's out on that. But he's an RFA. You don't have to give him a long-term deal. And this is, there were people yelling and screaming last year to give him a long-term contract. That was never going to happen. That's not the way these guys operate. They want to get as much information as possible because they want to make sure when they commit to these guys long-term that they're right. And so waiting out on Cam York was something that Briere should get credit for because he didn't. He could have jumped the gun and given him even a 5-year, $40 million or whatever, $30 million deal. We'll see. I mean, I don't think Cam York's quite yet cemented himself as part of the future. Whereas I did sort of think that after last season, I thought he was going to come in and become that guy, but. I still think he's a good player.
I don't think he's bad. I think it still bugs me that so much of his game looks like a little bit like laissez-faire. He's like, he almost waits for the game to come to him, and I just want at some point for him to grab the game by the throat. And I think if he ever develops that killer instinct, well, then all of a sudden, I think his ceiling goes up exponentially. It's just that's my main hesitation.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, now I know that you got to go. You have to run. I appreciate you being here. As Anthony is still somewhere in the abyss.
I got some more time. Whatever if you want me to stay.
Yeah. It's all right. But tonight's game, how do you see it playing out?
That's a good question.
We know Crosby's in the lineup.
Yeah, Crosby's playing. I talked to him this morning, actually, for a little bit. He's playing. Malkin, I think, is playing. He took part in the morning skate. Erik Karlsson's a guy a little bit in focus right now, right? Because he did have a very good Four Nations tournament. Hasn't really worked out here. Now his name's popping up in trade rumors. It doesn't sound like he's, it sounds like at least he could potentially be on the move. I'm not a huge fan of his game frankly, after seeing him in San Jose and
what's it
seeing him
about-
here.
What bugs you about
I think he's
Crosby?
too much of a one-man. He just doesn't. He thinks of himself as too much of a one-man operation than utilizing all the strengths of his teammates. So I think he's always been a little bit like that. I don't think you're ever going to win a Stanley Cup with that guy, frankly, but he's one that I think is going to be interesting. Just again because he did play well. You know, he was all over the ice in that tournament with Sweden, and you know, now that his name's in trade rumors, I'm sure he's aware of that. It'll be interesting to see how he plays.
Now, you did mention earlier that you could see some of the other teams in the Met maybe selling off, and that a lot of these teams are kind of in that.
Yeah, Rangers, Islanders,
purgatory sort of
Bruins.
range.
Now they got some injuries. I mean, look who else he got there.
I mean, I find it really hard to imagine that Pittsburgh. What do you do with Crosby? Like, there's always been that thought out there, like, could Crosby end up in Colorado and play with McKinnon?
Yeah, I know our writers at The Athletic both say he's not going anywhere, and I believe I trust their reports that Crosby doesn't want to go anywhere.
Does it, I don't think this fan base has been in a position. I mean, there were some Giroux years where people felt like, wow, the organization really screwed him and wasted some of his best years by not getting more talent around him. I mean, if it's Crosby and Malkin, it's almost over. There's still good players.
Yeah.
But
Malkin's got one more year left, and he's probably going to retire, right?
Probably.
So.
But is there a thought there, do you think, in Pittsburgh to say, all right, we don't want to jeopardize the future, however, we do kind of owe it to these guys to give them one last run, and maybe they end up being surprising buyers at the deadline?
Well, I thought they tried that when they made the Carlson trade and signed Ryan Graves. I mean, I figured that was Kyle Dubas's let's go for it and give Crosby one more shot at a Stanley Cup here. Now it's too late. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that ship has sailed.
Anthony, hello. We're talking about whether or not Pittsburgh owes it to Crosby and Malkin to give them one more shot.
I'm just stunned that Kurz is still here.
Well, I told him that he had an out.
I wasn't being a wise ass when I said that. I just
You know what? So the last time you were on, it was a really good conversation. Look, we like to have our guests on for 15 minutes, but you were so good, we had you on almost the entire half hour.
Flattery, you'll get you far. Yeah.
Right? And then today it's just let's as long as we keep it closer to 15 minutes. I was like, all right,
Does it feel like he threw shade at you there, Kevin? Because, I mean,
I didn't mean to be wise ass.
I don't know. Yeah,
I think it's because Kevin and I go way back. You can kind of get away with it. We used to work together here.
For the team.
No, I was already gone by then.
Oh, you were already gone by then?
Yeah.
Boy, fake news, Ant.
Well, so my first year covering, you were an intern with the Phantoms my first year, right?
What year was that?
04, when they won the Calder Cup.
Yeah. That's right. I was working for. I was full time. My first year with the Flyers was 03, 04.
So you were full time.
Then the lockout hit, and I went back over.
So my first year full time covering the team was 04, 05 was the lockout.
Right.
I was part time for the 3 seasons before that.
Okay.
4 seasons before that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So we did the Phantoms.
Yeah, it's almost a 20 year anniversary of that.
It was just I was the only beat writer.
Yeah.
So I saw you all the time.
That's right.
Yeah, with Frank Maselli, who's still down in San Antonio, I think, right? So it was Chief. Chief was a player coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Was he?
The year before he was a player coach.
Yeah.
That was his first year as a full-time assistant coach.
Yeah.
That was the year that I rode the bus with them to Hershey and Albany.
Nice.
And John Stevens put me on the bus right next to Chief. And Chief says to me, he looks down, he's had an entire case of Bud Light down on the floor. He's like, this is for me and you for the entire ride to Albany. I said, we're going to drink an entire case? He's like, well, I will.
If you want to bail, it's okay.
Yeah, you're good to go. You're good to
we
go,
had good hockey talk here.
It was good to go.
For about 15 minutes. We were on a roll. We were doing well. We were oddly on topic today, too.
That's weird, right?
Always a good thing. So, all right, we're going to bring Anthony back over. We'll see if he has any thoughts on tonight's game. Intern Andrew's going to readjust the camera. We're going to have the thing pop back up again. I love that. I still don't know why that happens. All right, come on.
I'm coming.
Andiamo, per favore.
Yes.
Ragazzo. Abbiamo che parlare.
Yes. I got to set up my computer and everything.
No, we don't care about that right now. Okay. Hello.
Do you care about my travel issues?
Well, I mean, I guess you can. I mean, listen, we did 15 minutes on hockey. We did 15 minutes on 2 bottom-feeding teams. By the way, we did run a tankathon because somebody asked.
Okay.
Flyers went from 7th down to 8th. Pittsburgh jumped up to number 1. I didn't hold it on the screen for very long because I didn't want to really make anybody's night, ruin. We actually have a guy who's in the comments who said that he was in the hospital, got meds, came out, and thanked us for doing the press row show tonight and for helping him feel better.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing.
It's like the hokey pokey. That's what it's all about. Here we go. I got it. It's Adam. Adam Glickus says, I'm glad I left the hospital, got meds, and I'm on the mend. You're making me come back to life. Keep talking Flyers hockey, please.
You got it, Adam.
So I'm going to let Adam dictate. Do we want to hear about Anthony's travel? I have not made fun of you for it.
Nor should you, because I left in plenty of time today. It was.
Did you pop it in Waze just to double check the traffic patterns, or no? You don't do that.
No, I don't do that. Why do I? There's no need to actually enter into a GPS system if you know where the hell you're going.
To get the real-time traffic updates, to know if there's a backup or if there's a potential.
Guess what, though? Guess what?
Tell everybody what's
No
going
matter where I would have gone today,
I'm here.
it would have been a problem.
Uh-huh.
It would have been a problem.
Watch the wire. Go around that way. The concerned fan is here, and I don't know how he got in the building with this, but he did. All right, go ahead. Just turn and face the camera real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, you don't have to talk.
Go ahead.
Just put it up in front of the camera. Yeah. All right? All right. This is what we have today. This is it. Crosby sucks. And he's hanging the Penguin. That's good.
Concerned fan.
Yeah.
Are you concerned tonight?
I'm past that.
He's past being concerned.
This season.
You didn't even center the thing.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
So anyway,
The show has gone to hell.
what ends up happening today?
One topic. We were doing so well, and then Anthony's show.
Yes, it's all my fault. So SEPTA had apparently, and I don't know anything about all the details, but apparently they had some kind of technical issue at 30th Street Station that dropped all the safety arms on the regional rail lines. So wherever a street crosses the regional rail, the safety arms were down.
Okay.
And no matter which way I went from where I live,
You would have hit one of those.
I would have hit one. So even if I popped it into Waze, it wouldn't have mattered. And it added 40 minutes to my commute.
So how long did it take you to get down here?
I left my house at 5:10.
And you pulled up at what time?
At 6:40.
Oh, baby cakes. This is what I face almost every
Yes.
time. And unfortunately, I left today at like 4:30, I think.
Yeah.
Because, one of the kids came home. Of course, we have to have one that's always, feeling sick now. This is just our life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to hang out, help him out, help my wife, and be a good dad and all that. And after I got done reading him the riot act about shoving his fingers in his mouth all the time, I then said I love you, and so it took a solid hour and a half to get down here.
It sucked.
It's not fun, is it?
No, it's not. It was
There was
miserable.
the time that I was at that Christmas party in media, and I came up here, it was like 25 minutes. Most amazing thing. I understood why you always show up happy.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It's an easy drive from Delco.
Then you get the hour 40, and you understand why it
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
an normally an easy drive from Delco.
Anyway.
So, but
Concerned fan, what's up? He's still here. What's up?
What's up?
Do you have? You're hanging out. Is there something you wanted to say to
he's
the people?
hanging. He's hanging out.
Season's already a wash.
Concerned fan says the season is a wash. It's a wash.
They're not going to make the playoffs.
He says they're not going to make the playoffs.
No. He's right. He's right.
Hold that back up to the camera one more time on your way out. No, a little bit higher. A little bit higher. There it is. All right. Concerned fan. Give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen. Stick taps on the desk.
Good stuff.
Hockey purgatory.
Yes.
Not this year, baby. Scott Lawton's getting dead at the deadline.
I hope.
I hear Washington's interested in him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. It's an interesting one, right? I
Well,
mean,
Kurs
Winnipeg offered a second-round pick.
Kurs and I were talking about Toronto.
Toronto's
And I
interested.
was saying that,
Winnipeg's
I
interested.
was saying that, defensemen are something that Toronto's always looking at as well.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, a little Cam York action maybe gets that capital coming back up a little bit higher because I'm not a York believer. But, throwing it out there. I mean, there are teams that
No,
are going to be interested in Scott Lawton.
I think Kuzmenko is going to get flipped too.
No, I like Kuzmenko.
You've seen 2 games.
He seems like a delight. We have that clip of him out in Calgary or whatever where where he's got the thing and he's talking about the ghost girl in
Yes.
the hotel room.
Yes.
I'm a believer in Kuzmenko. Maybe it's because I want my Zherdev Russian karmic payback, I believed in Zherdev. They gave up on him too soon.
So think about
Kuzmenko.
it this way. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The Flyers can probably eat some of that salary for this year because it's only for this year. It doesn't have to go into next year. If you could get a third-round pick for Kuzmenko, if you're not going to re-sign him, what the hell's it? Don't you want the third-round pick?
No, I don't. I want Kuzmenko brought back 3 years, give him $9 million a year. Watch him blossom. I don't mean that. I don't know. Like, see, this is the thing, right? Briere said this, and in fairness, I think that he's right. He said not that long ago, you don't want to. No, maybe it wasn't him. It was Jeff Merrick. I was listening to Merrick's podcast like 2 weeks ago, which I don't think is. Can I be honest? I don't like a lot of hockey podcasts. I don't like a lot of the national ones. I think they are like as entertaining as watching paint dry.
Because they're all shills for the league.
They are just like I listen. They're Merrick, Friedman. I know they're on separate shows now. Wonderful people, I'm guessing.
They are. They're wonderful people.
But the shows are boring as hell.
Of course they are.
We, on the other hand, are not.
Oh, this guy. That guy.
He knows this show's not boring. Now,
I got something about that.
He's listening to those national shows. No,
I got something about that guy.
What do we have about him?
So that guy we're talking about is Dan Hilferty, who just walked by. So on Friday, there was a season ticket holder event.
Yes.
Town hall event. And as per usual, for the fans who go to that thing, I want to say for the last 6 seasons, how long has it been since the Kate Smith statue debacle?
It's been a while.
5 seasons, whatever it is, 5, 6 seasons. Of course, the fans start demanding, we want God Bless America and Kate Smith back.
Oh, boy.
And apparently Dan said to them, he took it head on. And he said, we hear you, and we want to find a way to make it come back.
Wow.
Now, of course, I heard about that, and I got to follow up. I got to ask some questions. It's not going to happen unless they're in the playoffs.
Well, in fairness, that makes sense.
Right. So it's just not going to happen. So you're probably not going to see this year.
Stop saying probably. They ain't making the playoffs.
Right. You're probably not going to see it this year. But
I don't want anybody getting their hopes up. If there is a fan who loves this team with all their heart and soul, okay?
Well, look, you could squint for a second. You could squint for a second in this. If you want to be optimistic, you could sit here and say this, Russell. Their next 2 games are against Pittsburgh, who stink, right? They're, 5 points out of a playoff spot? So you could, in essence, get a little bit closer. And then even though the schedule gets tougher, all these games are at home. And so you can sit there and say, well, you could see how you could squeeze back in. I understand you don't want them to, and I don't think they're going to, so it doesn't make a difference. I'm just saying that you could, if you are an optimistic fan.
Sandman and the Hammerstein Bowl.
If you are an optimistic fan, which God bless you if you are, you could see a reason or a path to that. It's not going to happen.
In theory, I agree, and we have to remember, I was saying this to Kevin before, that 5 to 13, when I'm thinking about the way that we all should about the draft, 5 to 13 is such a bunched up mess that you very well could somehow, just based on the final few weeks of the season, I don't think there's any shot. It's very tough competition. But yes, I look at these next 2 games as being critical to that effort, right? Because Pittsburgh probably won't buy. Possible that they sell Carlson. Usually I look at this as a 4-point game, right? 4 points regulation win either way.
Yeah.
And because there's a back-to-back, you look at it potentially being an 8-point 2-game stretch here. It's brutal. If you're somebody who's looking at, maybe not trying to get to the top of the draft, but you're looking at, you don't want to find yourself in 12-13 if you could get to 6 or 7. These next couple of games are huge for that effort. But we all know you can't tell hockey players to go out and lose. You can't tell John Tortorella to go out and lose. We'll see where it ends up landing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of at a loss.
Anyway, so my little nugget there is that they've been talking about bringing back God Bless America. So there you go, fans.
And in fairness, if they do, they're going to have to explain the rationale. And this organization has done a pretty damn good job, I would say, of opening up to the fans and giving them some transparency into why they make the decisions they do.
Yeah.
So if they were to bring it back next year in the playoffs, because this will be a playoff team next year. I'm actually pretty damn confident about that, by the way. They'll be a playoff team next year. we're going to hear some Kate Smith in the Wells Fargo Center. They're going to have to explain to the people. Now,
I'm not sure how. I shouldn't say. It's going to be interesting to see how it's done.
well, I think
The song,
hear the Oregon, and
the
then they're
song will be back for the
Yes.
playoffs. In what
Just
capacity?
turn it. Just turn it. Don't. There we go. We're good. There we go.
And in what capacity Kate Smith is part of it? I don't know, but I would anticipate that it's probably a small part, not like it used to be before.
Yeah.
But I think it's there.
Okay.
And still, the biggest state secret in America exists.
What's the biggest states? What?
The biggest state secret in America still exists.
Where the Kate Smith statue is.
It's still around,
I know where it is.
but no, only like a choice few people know exactly where it's
I
stored.
actually do know where it is.
Get out.
Wildwood?
I do.
You know where it's stored.
I think Bundy's here. Hey, Bundy.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Did you
I'm
say it's
sending-
in
I'm sending you
Wildwood?
the- I'm
Yeah.
s- I'm sending you
Didn't
the
they want to
link.
put it in the boardwalk?
I
in
think that the
Wildwood?
mayor down there was interested in bringing it down there, but it never actually went down.
Okay.
Okay.
It's in storage, from what I'm told, but only very few people know where, and those people are not talking. And would you believe Dan Hilferty is one of the people that doesn't know?
Really?
They haven't told me.
Wow.
I know the people who
that?
know.
It's like the billions in Fort Knox. Who
Yo.
really knows?
Yo, in fairness, the thing that he said, so Trump talked about this with Macron next to him, and he's like, we're going to go open up Fort Knox, and wouldn't it be very sad if we got in there and there's no goalie? Wouldn't that be terrible? Yeah, it would actually be pretty freaking bad. It would.
You got going open Fort Knox and there's no gold, but there's the Kate Smith statue.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a golden Kate Smith statue now. They melted it all down and made one of her.
Well, we said we loved Kate. She had the golden pipes. So we made her gold, folks. We made her gold, didn't we? Anyway, guys, I think now is probably a good time to get into predictions. We can add a little bit of color to it because we have more than 30 seconds. Where do you guys see tonight's game going? Again, two teams that are just as close to the bottom of the league as they are to making the playoffs. Bundy, I'll start with you. How do you see tonight going?
Yeah, Crosby back in. You know, last time here the Penguins ended up losing the game, but they outplayed the Flyers a couple weeks back. The game on February 8th, I think it was. So, and Pittsburgh outplayed them, but I don't see if the Flyers play the way they did. They played well in transition. They locked down the middle of the ice. I'm going to say that they're going to stick with that tonight. I'm going to go with the Flyers 4-3.
I don't like Pittsburgh at all. I think Pittsburgh's in.
Yeah.
I think they may be the worst team in the conference. I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo catches them. Depends on what happens at the deadline with Buffalo. If they hang on to their young players, I think that they can catch them. If they trade Cousins and Bo Byram, which a lot of people think that they might, then maybe not. Maybe they won't catch them. But I think Pittsburgh is the worst team in the East. I think the Flyers looked good the other night, and they're gonna compete. I like the Flyers in this game 5-2.
5-2.
Yeah.
Wow, that feels kind of dominant. Who's in net for the Flyers?
I believe it's Urson tonight, right?
Thurston, yeah. I was actually going to say 4-2. I went 4-3, but I understand Anthony's thinking in that tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to just go off of hope and not off of what I think is actually going to happen. We all know where I stand. 4-point game. Penguins get a big win tonight. Penguins win 3-2.
Okay.
The contrarian.
Well, it's really just the hope. You can't have a 4-point swing. Intern Andrew, go to you.
Pittsburgh coming into this game on a 3-game losing streak. And Russ, I know you're not going to like hearing this. I actually do see a universe Flyers maybe going a little bit of a heater coming out of this break. So I'll take the Flyers 3-2. I don't like it any more than you.
Pittsburgh has got killed the last 2 games
Yes.
they played, too.
Yes.
Which was why they're going to come out hungry tonight, gentlemen. Hungry! Anyway, we will be back first intermission, second intermission, and postgame on the Snow the Goalie YouTube channel, Facebook, and X. Do us a favor if you haven't done so already. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. You can mute the game and pull up the Carnival episode that we did on Sunday with some incredible interviews, including Wayne Simmons as the last interview. That's one you want to go out of your way to listen to. But again, you can mute the game, you can go listen to that, and then you come back here for intermissions and postgame. I'm pretty sure that it'll be worth your while. In the meantime, we'll talk to all of you. First intermission here on the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show. Talk to all of you very, very soon. Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame intermission postgame show on the side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator. And my friends, 2-0 after 1. Your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers really taking it to the Pittsburgh Penguins, nearly doubling up the shots, 13-7 after 1. 2-0 on the scoreboard. Bundissimo, let's go to you first. Your initial reaction to that period.
Good start, and I said one of my keys on 97.5, the radio before the game, was having a fast start. Each of the teams that had a good start in the first 2 games these teams have played went on to get a win, and the Flyers tonight opened up the scoring. They scored 2 goals, but they really dominated the play. I don't think Pittsburgh had a whole lot of anything in the offensive zone, and the Flyers kind of picked up where they left off against Edmonton the other night. So great first period. Goal scorers were Ristolainen and Noah Cates. Both scored from similar spots on the ice, and Pittsburgh is really, Anthony said before, Pittsburgh may be probably the worst team in the conference. They looked like it that period.
Yeah, they can't defend.
They have no system in place. Right?
Yeah, they really can't defend. They have a few, good players up front, but it's just an ugly game to watch them play. It's not a knock on the Flyers. The Flyers played well in the period. It's the Penguins are just a bad team, and to try and watch them play, it's just like it's painful.
They're a bad mix right now, and again, you have 2 of the best generational talents in the same team with Malkin and Crosby over the years, and it's interesting as me and Anthony were talking. What do these guys? What are they going to want to end up doing? Are they going to want to end up setting themselves up in purgatory, Russ, for the remainder of their careers? Even though they each have 3 Stanley Cups, which is a behemoth amount of work, but. Do they want to take off for their chance to win a 4th Stanley Cup elsewhere? Because this team in Pittsburgh will not be good enough again by the time the Penguins get good, and by that time Crosby will be 42 or 43.
There are some big moments in history, boys. I mean, I know that we're not all the same age, but Ant can remember where he was when JFK was assassinated. Bundy, I'm sure you can remember where you were when 9/11 happened. I remember that as well, but people are going to be really focused in today, all right? Where were you the night that Jacob Peltier recorded his first point as a Flyer? We were here at Wells Fargo Center. He picks up an assist on that Noah Cates goal. Big moment for him. First point as a Flyer.
Yeah, he's an up and down the ice type of winger. As we were talking, I say with Anthony before the game, what exactly does he thrive at? And I guess it's penalty killing and bringing energy. But he got his first assist tonight, Russ?
Yeah, it was the first point as a Flyer. So, a lot of argument, a lot of anger in the comments section, guys. Not really, but a lot of back and forth about Risto. Is he upping his trade value? Is he making a case to stay? He had one heck of a thumper there on that goal. Bundy, I think we're all probably aligned that he's going to stay. And I've now very much planted my flag, and I think they're going to be a playoff team next year. And I can't believe that I'm going to say it. But if you're going to be a playoff team next year, I've been told for years about playoff Risto, about how he's the kind of guy you need in the playoffs. I don't know. There's part of me that thinks, all right, maybe unless somebody blows your doors off, Ant, you're probably keeping Risto.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's a 50-50. I mean, I think they might lean toward keeping him right now, and you still have time to trade him. It's one of those same things like we argued about Lawton in previous seasons. There's time to trade him down the line. You don't have to do it right now. They might. He still might if he gets the right offer, but he might also sit there and go, I don't have a guy ready to replace Rasmus Ristolainen in the system right now. Let me get that guy first, and then I'll trade Rasmus Ristolainen. So, unless you're getting the offer that you want, you say, okay, I can deal with that, and now I can replace Risto because we got enough in return. You probably hold on to him.
Let me put you on the spot.
Yeah.
More likely to be traded by this time next year. So I'll give you a calendar year.
Full calendar year.
Rasmus Ristolainen or Cam York?
It's a good question.
You have a thought there immediately there, Bundy? More likely to be traded by this time next year, Risto or York?
I don't know, but...
So the Flyers have a conundrum. And the conundrum is that when you look down the line, you have 3 defensemen that are kind of similar body size-wise.
Size guys.
Right? Yeah. And that's York and Drysdale and Emil Andre. I would argue that Jamie Drysdale's value is incredibly low at this point, and so you probably don't have a lot of interest in Jamie Drysdale around the league. So you have him on your roster, and you're hoping that you develop him. You're not trading Emil Andre right now because you're trying to. You think that he could become something more, and he's got to you got to see what it looks like. And we had Brad Shaw on at the Carnival, and he talked about every time he comes up, he shows a little bit more and a little bit more, a little bit more. Still takes those hits that he shouldn't take, and that he's got to learn how to play that way. But he's showing more and more and more. So you're probably not ready to move on from Andre. So York becomes the guy by default that if you have to move one, it would be him, and he probably has value. But I don't. Yeah, I would say it's probably. I will say after March 7th, my answer to that question is Cam York. Because if there's a chance Risto gets traded before March 7th, right? Okay. So if you ask me that question in a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'll tell you the answer is Cam York.
Interesting.
I'm leaning towards that too. The Cam York. You asked me the question, who's more likely? I think it's Cam York.
Then we're all in agreement. That's pretty wild. Especially where you think about where we were entering this season. I thought it was almost a foregone conclusion that if you could get a first, for example, for Risto, you do it. But, we asked Jonesy about this at the Carnival as well. At some point, do you start looking at 2026 when it comes to all the draft capital? 3 firsts, 4 seconds this year. Stands to reason that, at some point, you probably do want to start loading up for next year as well. There are certain teams that you maybe consider as being a team that would be interested. Toronto maybe would be a team that could have interest. They don't have a first this year. If they were to get involved, maybe 2026, that's in play. I just find it really hard to imagine that they're going to move on, especially because there are the concerns about so many of the small defensemen on this team.
Yeah.
If you're to move off of a York, well, then you're certainly not also going to turn around and then move off of Risto. You just don't have, and you don't have anybody who's really ready yet. Where do you think the organization thinks a Bonk is in terms of his ability to maybe make the team next year? Is he 2 years away? 3?
Probably 2 years. I mean, you might get a cup of coffee at some point next year. Guy gets hurt, call him up, kind of thing. But he's going to play in the AHL next year.
For at least a year.
Yeah, at least a year in the AHL. So no, I don't think he's part of the team. I mean, I've been wrong on this before. I mean, young guys have come in and impressed in camp, and all of a sudden they make the team. You're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But if you're
going to be careful with defensemen.
Yeah,
too,
defensemen, it's a little bit more likely that they need the time in the AHL.
Because it takes so long for guys to develop potentially, Bundy, do you think there's any hesitation? I think what Risto's been playing this year, and even stretches last year, is probably about as good as he's ever going to be, which, in fairness, is a top 4 defenseman. He does look good. I don't think he's got another level to go to. York, while young and maybe not quite as established or as good right now as Risto is, I guess, is there a concern organizationally that if you give up on that guy too soon, he might have that extra level to go to? And do you think it maybe changes the equation on
York, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. And then again, that's where you have to have faith in Danny and what he's doing and what his thoughts are and the people around him. So, I mean, does he have another level? We've seen him play better last year than he has this year, and I think people in general would tell you that they think he may have taken a step back. I don't think it's been that bad, but I haven't seen him progress to another level yet, and so maybe that's of concern to the team.
I think now's probably a good time to go to one of our favorite segments on the show, and it is the first intermission, which means that it is time for none other than intern Andrew to grace us with his presence, and also in doing so, join us to give us the stat of the night.
The Associated Press appreciates it very much.
Good to know.
You should give him a kickback.
Well, yeah,
for the one sentence that I write.
Intern Andrew deserves a kickback.
That's one sentence you wouldn't have had.
Each and every AP writer deserves to have an intern. Go ahead.
So, when the Flyers entered the league in 1968, the Penguins were part of that initial expansion, right?
67, 68. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So this has been a very, very long-standing rivalry. Tonight is the 355th game the Flyers have ever played against the Penguins.
Yeah.
Flyers lead the all-time series in the regular season 166 to 117, 30 ties. In the postseason, 7 playoff series. The Flyers won 4 out of the 7, and in playoff games, Flyers lead 21 to 20. Very, very even.
Wow.
The longest winning streak in the history of this rivalry.
Well, you want to turn that into trivia or no?
It's just going to be a number. So.
All right, go ahead. Whatever.
The Flyers, 11 in a row at one point. The Penguins beat the Flyers October 23rd, 1982, and didn't beat the Flyers again until October 20th, 1984.
Dude, I'll give you one that's even a little bit better if you want to look it up. I don't remember the exact dates, but I believe there was a stretch of time. Bundy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 14 years where the Penguins didn't win here.
Didn't win at the Spectrum.
I did not
And
know
then
that.
Mario came in and put a clinic on one day.
Mario broke the streak, but I think it was something like 40. It might even be longer.
I think it was longer than that.
Yeah, it was something
It might have been
ridiculous.
like 17 years.
It was
or something.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at just
Take a look at that and find
just look
out.
at the games here, and you'll be like, "Holy cow!"
Do you know the biggest blowout in this rivalry's history?
8-2.
No.
No, 13-1,
No.
13-2.
No.
It was something like that.
October 20th, 1977, the Flyers beat the Penguins 11-0.
Wow.
Who was the 13 against them?
That's a thumping.
They did
don't
score
remember.
13 against somebody. I thought it was the Penguins.
1977,
Yeah.
Reggie Leach and Bill Barber both had 2 goals in that game, and I think the Penguins goalie's name was Dunk Wilson.
The
Yes.
Flyers.
He was 43 for 54 that game. He was in the net for all 11 goals.
He
Never
wore
even got
that.
pulled.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the coach telling you to stay in an 11-0
At the
game?
end of the second, the guy's like, listen, you're going to stay in there and fight for us.
His save percentage that day was 796.
You'll never get that one
That's
back.
what cost Patty Waugh in Montreal, right?
Gave up that. They lost 8-0
And
in
he
Detroit.
and they wouldn't pull him. They wouldn't pull him. And he walked onto the bench and walked right over to the GM
Ron
and
Corey,
and
the
said
president.
I'm out.
Yeah.
That's the last time I
You've seen
ever.
the last time I'm playing here.
Yep.
We're going to give Ant some credit. He's not totally wrong. The Flyers have scored 13 goals in a game twice. They both came in 1984, and one time was against the Penguins. It was a 13-4
Oh,
victory.
okay.
March 22nd of 1984.
I thought that. Yeah.
Later that year, in October, so technically a new season, the Flyers beat Vancouver in Vancouver by a score of 13-2.
Really?
Yeah, I know that. I knew
the same
13 was
calendar
the.
year.
I knew 13 was the
That's
record for
actually a
goals.
good one.
in
We
a
got to
game.
find out what the most goals ever scored in an NHL game was.
Well, that's easy. You can find that on
That's probably simple.
records.nhl.com.
Yeah, I'll find it in a second.
Yep.
Team record for most goals scored in a game. And 13's got to
Are
be
you saying
close.
it's by one team or to the 2 teams
No,
combined?
one team.
Yeah, I'm sure if you go back in the day,
13 is a lot.
it is.
16.
Yeah.
16 goals scored by Montreal against
Wow.
who's QB? The Quebec,
The Quebec
Bulldogs.
Bulldogs.
Quebec Bulldogs.
March 3rd, 1920.
Now, if you want to come back into like
The modern
somewhat-
era. So since
All right,
'67,
so
since expansion.
1981, the North Stars scored 15 against. Was that Winnipeg? Yeah, the original Winnipeg Jets.
Yep.
15.
Yeah, 15-2. I'm seeing.
And the Red Wings, and well, here, let's go into the 80s again. The Sabres had 14 against the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, 14-4.
So, yeah, there you go.
I'm seeing.
So, in overall, the Flyers have the 11th and 12th highest scoring single team performance in a single game
At 13.
at 13. There you go. Hey, you learned a lot tonight. Lots of stats.
God, do you know how brutal you got to be to give up 13? I mean,
Pretty bad.
when you give up 5 in a game, that's like exponentially high, right? If you
Yeah.
get to 8, you've had a really rough night.
Imagine when you remember when I yelled at Russ for predicting 6,
Right.
right?
And then he got it
Well,
right.
last year,
And he
that
got it
was
right.
yeah.
And he got it right.
Yeah, no, that's
And
crazy
now
numbers.
imagine more than double that.
I saw somebody in the comments who needs to be called out. Deirdre. We tried to call Deirdre out the other night because intern Andrew's potato cam was so upsetting on so many levels the other night. And for those who, I guess, might have missed it, although I don't think it's many,
Oh, we're doing this again?
well, I don't know if I have the image readily available to pull up, but what I will tell you is I went back and I reflected on that image that you took, and I thought that it looked even worse afterwards. So Deirdre,
Is JJ really loud right now? That is ridiculously loud.
what?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of background noise today. I don't know
A lot
why.
of background. It's on mic too.
No call.
Jamie Drysdale taking it into the corner. No call. No call. Boosh. Boosh, what did you see there? I got to be honest, didn't see anything there.
Jim. Given the benefit of hindsight, I actually had my iPad with me in my backpack. I probably should have just taken a picture on that.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't even think of it.
If you take a picture at a thing with an iPad, you're like the Japanese tourist lady wearing
Okay,
that
so
hat at the
no matter
Capitol,
what
you
I
know?
do, I get made fun of. Great. Okay, cool.
That's yeah.
Can't win.
Well, it's not making fun. I'm just saying you would have absolutely gotten roasted if you had like pulled out an iPad.
I already did. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, but the only people who know are the ones who watch the show.
Okay.
You just look like a
okay.
regular.
You talking about the picture he took with us with Dan and Jonesy?
Yeah.
That was unbelievable how bad that was.
That
The phone's
potato-
like 3 years old. What do you want me to do?
Get
That
a new
does not
phone.
look like a 3-year-old phone.
Get a
That
new
looks-
New phone. That was like 1998. It's like a
He had a-
hand me
chose a
down from
great year.
Deirdre.
He took the photo with a BlackBerry.
Yeah. That was an original Secret Service phone back in 1968.
It was attached to a bag.
Inspector Gadget.
It had a cord coming out. It went into a bag.
Na-na-na-na-na. I mean, it's just brutal. And by the way, he took a picture later in the day of somebody who may or may not be one of my enemies, and that picture also looked like it came out in 1975. It's like, you know,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
I-
you go to visit like your parents, and they have all the old pictures in the shoebox, right? And you're like looking at the quality, and you're like, that's his phone. Anyway, Deirdre, get him a new phone.
Whatever.
Your mom liked that.
She did, yeah.
She enjoyed that 1968 Inspector Gadget Secret
And
Service
she
phone.
liked the Secret Service reference.
Yes,
Yes.
of course.
All right, well, intern, we'll see you in the second
All right,
period
talk
for
to you later.
trivia time. And now we come back here. Boys, a 2-0 lead, and Pittsburgh really does look inept. Bundy, do you think that, like, could this lead double? What do you think we're going to
Sure.
see? What do you
The
think will happen?
all the Flyers have to do is play the way they just did. They'll get plenty of chances. There'll be ample opportunities. But don't let Pittsburgh play the kind of game they want to play. They want to play a Crosby, Malkin, make it easy game. Don't do that. The Flyers will get out of here with a win.
Yeah, I mean, do me a favor. Just get up by like 4 so that it's an easy story for me to write today.
Right.
That's all I'm looking for.
It's all about Anthony.
It's all about me.
All right, we will be back. Second intermission and postgame here on the Press Row Show. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. Talk to all of you soon.
Welcome into the Press Row Show, the #1 rated pregame intermission postgame show at the side of the Mississippi South, the Arctic Circle, north of the equator. The Penguins stink. 5-1 Flyers after 2, and the Flyers put together 2 incredibly close together goals. First you got Bobby Brink, then you got Noah Cates.
No, the other way around.
First you got Noah Cates, then you got Bobby Brink.
From Noah Cates and Bobby Brink.
Yes.
Each goal.
Brink, Cates, Cates, Brink.
Yep.
Yes.
Cates, Brink, Cates. Yep.
Wild. I don't even know what to say. It is that. Like, we talk sometimes about the fact that it feels like the ice is tilted in one direction. This has been an absolute decimation of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And yet, this doesn't feel like a Flyers-Penguins game. I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer.
Oh, it's
But
not.
like prior to those 2 quick succession goals, this did not feel like an arena that like had the oomph and the juice that it usually does for the Battle of the Keystone State.
You're talking about the 8th and 9th place teams in the Eastern Conference playing each other.
Yes.
It's not like it used to be, Russ, back in the old days when at least one team was really good, if not both. Yeah.
Flyers, though, are playing really well.
Yeah, they're having a good game.
They're having a really good game. Pittsburgh is, I mean, if their big 3 isn't on their game, or big 4, actually, because you can add Carlson, they don't have anything. They have nothing around those guys. And they're getting older, those guys. That's what it appears like to me out there. Chris Letang looks like he's lost out there at times on the ice.
The game's too fast for him, I think, at this point.
And same with Carlson, too, a little bit. I know he's a little bit more slippery, but again, it feels like the pace is just too much for those guys.
Brad Miller with a great comment there. That shift by Drysdale on the third goal was proven one of the best shifts he's ever had.
Ever.
It really was, and Bundy and I were actually talking about it in the moment. It wasn't just the pass that he makes to Forster for the goal. What I think it's and right now is the turning point in the game for me is the defensive play that he made intercepting a pay. Like the Penguins were trying to rush, and they were trying to hit a guy on I don't know who it was going down the left wing there, and they were trying to make a pass through behind Drysdale, and he knocks
Crosby.
Was it Crosby?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he knocks the puck down, smothers it, gets the rush starting back the other way. He gets it to Brink, who drops it to him, and then he makes the great pass to Forster. So it was an all-around really good play. And I think he had a chance before that. Like Drysdale himself actually had a shot on goal.
Yep.
It was a pretty good one. So that was a really, really good shift by Jamie Drysdale.
Yeah, it was. He's really had a good game, and that was the play of the game. That was an absolutely beautiful play. And feathering a pass over a few sticks right out of the stick of Forster. He didn't miss a beat. Beautiful one-timer, and he sealed it. But got to give those guys credit. Cates, Couturier, the check-in job that they've done the last 2 games, it's paid off huge dividends for their team offensively. And the second period, who'd have thought the second period, after the second periods they've had this year, would end up becoming a strong suit in their game late in the year.
2 games in a row.
2 games in a row, they've poured it on. So, again, they're dominating Pittsburgh here today. They need nothing more than to close it out with a good third period, and they'll get out of here with 2 points.
There was a question in the comments from Brad Miller. Are we hitting 13 goals tonight?
That would be great.
Yeah, if Penguins are bad enough that they could give up 13 in a game at some point.
Yeah,
but not tonight.
Their goalie's been left out, hung out to dry as well, too, and he looks like he's facing a lot of pressure in front. Flyers are putting pucks to the net, and that makes a huge difference. Pittsburgh, in turn, nothing is available to them in the middle of the ice, and that's made a huge difference for the Flyers in this hockey game. Again, clogging and locking down the middle of the ice is just a real good spot for the Flyers, and they're doing that, and it's going to be hard. It's hard to win games when the team's playing like this. Doesn't mean they're going to stay playing like this, but the way that they're locked in right now, they're hard to beat.
I'll tell you what's not hard to beat. Intern Andrew's trivia. We've been on a roll of late, doing very well, and at this point, it's time to bring the young man on. He can impress us. He can wow us with his abilities. Intern Andrew is here. Intern Andrew, are you ready to bestow your well-thought-out and highly researched trivia of the game?
Yes, I would say. By the way, before I get to that, where was it? February 7th, 1974 through February 2nd, 1989, Penguins were 0-39-3 at the Spectrum.
Until what year again? 74 till when?
89.
I told you,
Yeah,
it was unbelievable.
Lemieux. 15 years.
Yes.
15 years.
That's pretty crazy.
0-39-2?
And 3.
0-39-3.
Yeah.
And then
42 straight games without winning at the Spectrum.
That was a streak that totally precedes you and I, fella.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So pretty crazy though, right? Think about that.
It's a long time.
I mean, it's it's usually
That's a high school-aged kid.
usually something like that.
Born and sophomore in high school.
Usually something. That was me. I was born in '74, and I was in high school in '89 when it ended. So it's me.
Do you remember the first loss?
It was against the Penguins, Lemieux. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have a hat trick or what? Like, what was the master class he put on?
No, but he was dominant in the game. And the Flyers were starting to get. That was kind of like the end of their run. I mean, I know they made the conference finals in '89, but then they proceeded the next 5 years to miss the playoffs. So that was kind of they were getting to the end of that grouping there. Where
You see that little kid was wearing a Stanley Cup final shirt from 2010, right over there. That little kid. Now he's over here, Bundy. He was in the Snow the Goalie sports book.
Oh, okay.
Looked like a 12-year-old kid had a Blackhawks Flyers Stanley Cup shirt.
Oh, how about that?
Sad. Not quite as sad as the.
What could have been?
Not quite as sad as the kid wearing the Carter Hart jersey to the carnival
And dunked you.
and then dunked me.
Violation.
That
I would
was
say.
rock bottom. Anyway, drop a rock bottom on the people right now. Trivia time.
So I mentioned that the Flyers and Penguins have played 41 games against each other in the playoffs. Only 5 of them have ever gone to overtime, however. 3 wins by the Flyers and 2 wins by the Penguins.
I was in 2 of those overtime wins.
All right, so can you give me the 5 goal scorers?
Well, Primo
Andy Delmore.
and Andy Delmore. They were back to back, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Back-to-back games 3 and 4.
Right.
One of them happened in the Giroux era.
Was it Coots?
No.
That was I thought maybe the hat trick game. No, that was 6
Did
to 3.
Voracek have one of them?
It was Voracek.
Voracek, yeah.
So you have the 3 Flyers.
And you got to go Pittsburgh. as well.
Oh, I know the
Pittsburgh
one.
Pittsburgh had 2? Okay.
What was his name? Long hair, not Jogger, but
Rob.
yeah. What was his last name?
Rob, little guy, long hair, played with Mario, scored like 50 goals. Rob Brown.
Rob Brown.
No.
No.
Wow. Was one from the Crosby era?
Yeah.
Was it a defenseman?
No. Forward.
Malkin.
No.
It wasn't Crosby. Stahl?
No.
Gensel, Rust.
No, that's
No.
later.
How about this? It ties into you a little bit. Because earlier this year when I asked the year that you were in Dallas who the Stars' alternate captains were that year, this was one of them.
Sergei Zubov.
No.
He also played for the Penguins.
I didn't know that, actually. That would have worked
He did,
perfectly.
yeah,
but
but Zubov
it
was a Penguin. That's
it
why I
wasn't
said.
him.
Who else
Brendan
was?
Morrow was the assistant captain. Mike Madonna was the captain. I said Yuri Letnin was not the other captain, but I remember this was kind of an off-kilter one. So the guy I'm missing, one of the assistants, was one
I
of the
think he
goals.
has a front office job somewhere now, if I'm not mistaken.
Bill Guerin?
Bill Guerin. Was
He looks-
2009 Game 2.
Okay.
So the one you're missing is from 1989.
Was it Lemieux?
Was it Kevin Stevens?
No. Left winger.
Joey Mullen.
No. If it helps you, his distant cousin is one of the best hockey players of all time.
Distant cousin.
Same last name.
Or
No.
Distant cousin.
You know
is
that's
one of
Bobby
the
Brink's
greatest-
middle name?
Bobby Orbrink?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who played for Pittsburgh. Joey Mullen back then. Gordon. Ron.
No, Ron
Ronnie
Francis.
Francis?
He was the
Was
center.
it, was
Francis
it another
was the center.
Lemieux?
No.
Trying to think of who else was on those teams that like ended up winning. Brian Trout.
Oh no! It's the guy I was thinking of with the long hair. Was it Phil Bourque?
It's Phil Bourque.
Yes.
He looks in the
Bill
comments.
Bourque's another guy with long hair.
Yeah,
Rob
that's
Brown
that-
was the one I was thinking.
Yes, Phil Bourque.
Yes.
Yeah.
His cousin, you may know him, is Raymond.
Everybody loves
Is who?
Ray.
Raymond Bourque.
Ray
Is he?
Bourque is his
This
cousin, yeah.
okay.
All right, we
I
got
didn't
there.
know that.
Yeah.
Good trivia.
That was a good one.
Good job, Boomer.
Good trivia question stuff there.
Someone said,
That was good. I think tonight, intern Andrew has deserved. I think he has earned tonight between the trivia and between the stat of the night. He deserves a stick tap.
oh, thank you. Just one?
Just the one?
I'll give him 2. No, none from you. Bundy and I, we're stick tapping, and you're just.
I'm doing it under the table.
That sounds real. You know.
No, wait.
That doesn't seem very appropriate.
No,
at
that's.
all. That was.
Why
not,
do you think that?
Because
why
I
does
saw
your mind
hands,
go there?
Because I saw your hands, and you said, "I'm stick tapping from under the
But
table."
because it wasn't on
See your
camera.
hands clearly.
Because it wasn't
So
on
you tell
camera.
me what stick we're talking about. If your hands are here, and you're saying, this is a family show.
My God, how sick.
This is a family.
Think about this is where
this
Russ's
is a
mind is. I
family
was nowhere near that conversation, and this is where
I've signed a boob.
Sick.
I can't believe you just said that.
well, because I wasn't. It was not on
You thought
camera.
the
That was
same
the
thing,
reason I was
right?
saying
I
it.
can't believe you just said that.
and then you're doing that. And from underneath, the implication is that it's not
No, that's your implication.
No.
I was saying it because it wasn't on camera.
like butts.
No.
If somebody says from under the table, what's the implication? Yeah, he gets it. Mike gets it. I'm going to start asking random people. We're going to start finding out. We're going to ask the questions that need to be asked. Anthony SanFilippo crossed the line tonight. You know, I always think that I'm going to be the one that gets us canceled. It ain't me. Not tonight. Under the table. Like we saw his hands, he goes, I'm stick tapping under the table. Whoa, what could that mean? Like, what are we doing? Greg Bondarenko says, hands where we can see him, Ant. Jeez Louise.
Yes,
hand check.
It was Phil Park. You were right.
All right, so anyway, we're just... The show's gone off the road.
Buddy, the
off
first 5 minutes
rails.
of the third period. Really important.
What are you looking at me for? I'm not the one who said that thing. You said the thing. I'm not. This ain't me.
It isn't you. You're the one who turned it into that.
Beautiful weather today.
Scott Hanlon.
Gorgeous weather. High of 61.
Whole thing. You know what?
No jacket required.
I see it in the comments, and this is a good time for
That
that.
silly podcast.
All right, let's try to bring it back. Now that Ant's hands are both on the...
So we got a 5-1 game.
Yes, we do.
And Flyers don't look like they're ready to stop putting the foot down to the pedal.
We don't. You know what, Bundy? I got to think that this team, just given the way that they've played these last couple of games, they've got to be feeling good. They know that the expectation on the outside is that they're not going to win games. And yet, really strong effort against Edmonton. You right now so far have kind of curb stomped a team that, even though, you know, neither team is particularly good, you've already curb stomped Pittsburgh through 2 periods. Is it a situation at this point where you just have to stay locked in? Is there a chance of complacency here with a 4-goal lead?
This is where your coach is going to tell you to go out and play, continue playing hard, play the same way you are, and realize how you got to where you got. You made good plays to the front of the net. You haven't been playing around with the puck all night. You've been doing really good, strong north-south type of play, and the Flyers need to just keep on that. But play hard. You don't want to get anybody injured. This is a game you're going to run out of here with a big win, but you can actually add to it if you play the game the right way.
Ant,
What he said.
is there any other insight you'd like to add? You just want to go, don't you?
No, because I'm worried that something else that I say is going to be misconstrued.
What else could be misconstrued? It wasn't misconstrued. We should put, hold on. I'm going to go over to YouTube really quick, and I'm going to put up a poll. And we're going to rely on the fine folks who watch this show.
Here we go.
I'm trying to clean this up.
And
which is
we're
just
going
a
to
mess.
allow them to weigh in.
Here we go.
Did you take it? No, just gonna. I'm gonna.
Can't wait to see how you word this question.
Well, I'm not gonna, say what's he talking about. We'll give it a second. Ant,
Yeah,
Bobby Brink's had a really good game.
he has. He's had more than one good game. That whole line's been really good for a while.
What do you think it's been about that line? Like, what do you think it is that has clicked for them? Because they looked good before the Four Nations break, and they've come back out, and they look strong again. Is it just that Torts really hasn't tinkered with that line, and they've built chemistry? Like,
Well, that helps. I mean, one of the things about Torts is, he's always kind of, mad scientist, approach to lines, but he has kept them together. And so a lot of times, you get that chemistry together if you play well. But it's credit to them because they play a really good forechecking game. They're responsible in their own end. They do a lot of little things right. You don't. Maybe in last year or even the year before when we would see those guys, I know Brink and Forster had smaller cups of coffee 2 years ago, and when Cates was pretty good that first year. But they are much more consistently playing within the structure, and I think that when they do that, they're going to get rewarded. And they're not going to score 35 goals, but they're going to have games like this where they're going to put up some really good offense. Forster's a goal scorer. We know that. I mean, he's probably going to break 20 goals again this year. And you're seeing the creativity that Brink has, and I think Noah Cates has proven that he could be a good third line center, good shutdown center. I just think it's a good group. It's a good trio, and if you're the Flyers, you're probably happy with that as your third line for the next several years.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And I guess it kind of comes down to one of those things that we've talked about, you know how you're going to have to go out and get that top talent on the team, but ultimately if along the way you're able to develop guys that can really fit into those bottom six roles, but do it at a high level, that ultimately is also part of what makes a successful rebuild. And have those guys under contract at a decent hit as well.
And I will say this, and I think this is kind of, for all the times we criticize the coach for various things. The notion that there are guys who don't develop under Torts, well, you're looking at a trio right there that has developed under Torts.
Yeah.
And they've developed well because they've developed in a role that fits the way he coaches the game.
Systemically, the way they're playing, you can take a group this is what Torts does really well. Takes a group of guys that maybe aren't supposed to do it, and they ends up putting a system in place where they feed off of that, and they've done that. There's been a lot of guys doing that.
I will say as we go into the third period, the poll, we're going to end the poll based on societal understanding. Ants under the desk stick tap could have been interpreted as his hand, 20%. Something else, 79%. And on that bombshell, it's time for us to end. We will be back post-game here on the Press Row Show.
Welcome into the Press Row Show, the number one rated pregame intermission postgame show in Mississippi, South, the Arctic Circle, north of the equator.
South of the 51st state, Canada.
South of the 51st state, Canada.
No, west of the 51st state, Greenland. South of the 52nd state, Canada. North of the Panama Canal. Or as we're soon going to call it, the Bundy Canal. Welcome on in. 6-1, your final score here at the Wells Fargo Center. Bundy, no matter how good or how bad these teams are, it has to feel good for each and every one of those players, and it certainly feels good for all the fans that we're watching. Leave here outside of the Snow the Goalie Sportsbook. It has to feel good for them to watch their Flyers take down the Pittsburgh Penguins.
It does. It's a good win. Anytime you get to play your cross-state rival, and there's been a lot of bad blood over the years, it's a good win, especially to run them right out of your building 6-1. And make sure that doesn't fall on your computer. There you go.
Your pee bottle.
And it was from start to finish. It was a master class tonight of defensive work, transition, and the Flyers played a great game. I mean, Pittsburgh really couldn't do anything. Crosby and Malcolm were pretty much invisible, and the Flyers did what they wanted until they got 6 goals, and then the game just kind of slowed down after that. But it was big. A lot of guys back healthy, too, as someone just put on our screen, and that's been a good sign. I mean, you can tell Pittsburgh just gets really thin after they get out of their big guys. They just don't have a lot. They don't have a lot to get things done.
The Penguins were credited with 20 giveaways in this game.
Oh.
Ew.
20!
Oh, no.
You're not going to win a hockey game with 20 giveaways.
Holy I'll give you one. Here's one other one. This is Ant Trivia tonight.
Ooh.
Ant Trivia. So the Penguins have now played, this was their 60th game of the season. How many of their 60 games have they allowed at least 5 goals?
In 60
games.
I'm going to say 15.
18.
Exactly 15.
It's 15?
It's so sick that he does this.
I was a guess.
But it was exactly
I
right.
was going to say 18. What was your guess going to be?
I was going to say 19.
15 out of 60 games,
That's unbelievable.
including the last 3.
Any idea how many went beyond 5?
Oh, I give a bunch. I didn't give you the
Okay.
exact number, but their last 3 games, they've been outscored 19-7 in 3 games. More than 6 goals per game allowed.
That's insane. Is this Pittsburgh team the worst team the Flyers have played this season?
No, there was another one I thought was
San Jose.
No, it wasn't even them. It was somebody else came in here one night and they were just red.
Well, Chicago was bad.
Oh, it was Chicago.
Chicago was really
Oh,
bad.
my God.
And
really
Anaheim looked terrible the game that
Yeah,
game,
they
but that
were
was
bad.
that was a little bit.
But in terms of the way the team played, that tonight was one of the worst. But Chicago, I think that's going to be an all-time winner this year. The Chicago team, they were just brutal.
I
Yeah.
like what Laboom60 just had to say there. Said Ersson looks like his confidence is sky high after the Four Nations tournament. If you remember, they went into that well, just hold on. If you remember, going into that tournament, the thought was that he wasn't going to play. He had a really good game against the Americans. I don't necessarily agree that he looks, incredible since Four Nations, but I will say that game, if nothing else, had to kind of feel good for him.
Sure, but I mean,
and maybe it kind of helps propel him into the
Sure, but
rest of
let's
the
keep in mind it's only been 2 games and one against a bad team that's the Penguins.
Okay, well,
and
let's not poo-poo it.
And
It's a
against
big night.
and against Edmonton and
Who's
against
reeling
Edmonton
right now.
and against Edmonton, who's now lost. It looks like they're going to lose again tonight and be 3 in a row. But even in that game, he gave up a bad goal, if you remember, in the
Yep.
first period.
Yep.
And the team came back and supported him. He gave up 3 goals in that game. That's not necessarily great. So
Hey, can I borrow your glasses real quick? Hey, who's that I'm seeing over there? Is that a pessimistic Paulie? Pessimistic Paulie? Yo, your glasses.
ours.
Look out.
They're about as clean as the
As the
shot
potato can.
as the potato can.
What happened here?
Don't you have a thing to wipe them?
Lens cleaners? This is why he doesn't know that his camera's so bad.
Deirdre, your son needs glasses too.
And we love intern Andrew, and we're not giving him a hard time. We are going to turn him into an upstanding member of society.
Yeah.
We are.
Do you want me to give you the microfiber?
No, I have them at home.
Oh, okay.
I don't have them on.
I have one
No.
with me if you want one.
Well, that's really sweet. A good father-son moment here
Yeah.
on the show. Okay, Bundy.
Yes.
We said pregame that this rivalry isn't obviously what it was at a decade ago. Primarily because neither of these teams are particularly in the mix right now for a Stanley Cup. The feeling in the building, and I don't want to be a downer here, I would say that for a good chunk of this game, it didn't really have the feeling. The vitriol wasn't really there. There were a decent number of Penguins fans, but I can even tell you coming in, like, you know, back in the day, you'd see a Penguins fan, and there'd be, like, F-bombs, and there'd be, like, back and forth. And for whatever reason tonight, like, I came in the arena, and I just, like, it was like people were being nice to each other. It actually felt kind of gross.
It was nice and pleasant.
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing is tonight, guys? So Flyers, great win, right? Columbus, who was ahead of them, won.
Yeah.
The Rangers, who are ahead of them, look like they're going to win. They're up big.
Yeah.
Montreal, who's ahead of them, looks like they're going to win.
They won. They're up.
Like all the teams that you're chasing, other than the Islanders. The Islanders were the only one because they lost to the Rangers.
So you're not going to lose much ground in the.
They didn't gain any ground
in the lottery. I'm saying in the lottery. You're not going to.
Yeah. No, they didn't. I
looked the other way.
Well, no, they moved up a spot because they moved ahead of the Islanders. The Islanders lost. Yeah. So they did move up a spot, but
Pittsburgh is now 5th. Right? Is that correct? I believe that is correct. This was the 59th game for your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
So the Flyers remain at the 7th right now.
Because that Rangers-Islanders game is not officially final yet, but it's going to be.
But it is going to be.
It was like 5-1 or something.
Yeah, it's crazy though, guys. I'm gonna bring this up here, not for the tank idea here, but I do think it's important as we continue throughout the season here. Like, you know, on one hand, you could make the case. All right, it's a big glump of teams, but if you look at this, the disparity between some of these teams, it's incredible, right? Seattle, 59 games played, 54 points, right? You go from there to like 12th, where the Islanders are now. Granted, that game's not official. 57 points. There are so many teams that over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see these teams jockeying, you know, whether it's to try to make the playoffs, whether it's to sell off pieces and try to bottom out. This is wild to me. I can't remember a year where there was this tight of a race in that big of a group. You know, usually it's like 5 teams are very bad. But this just kind of speaks to the parity that exists in the league, doesn't it? That so many teams.
There's a lot. We talked about this. I don't know. What was it, Bundy? About a month ago or a month and a half ago, about just how mediocre most of the league is.
It is.
Like most of the league is the same.
It is just very much all the same. There's a whole bunch of teams that are piled in there together.
Yeah, I mean you got your teams at the top and you got your teams at the bottom, but there's a lot more in the middle that are exactly alike. They're all the same.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there I guess one other good thing to take out of this, right? We talked about this during the second intermission, but the Cates and the Brink, Forster, it's looking good.
10 points tonight combined.
10, yeah, combined 10.
4 for Brink, 3 for Cates, 3 for Forster.
Career high for Brink with 4.
When I want to rehash this really quick from second intermission, I think we'll probably roll, but you know, a lot of times when you're a rebuilding team, you think about that top-end talent because that ultimately is what kind of takes you from being a good team or a very good team to being a cup contender. But in the midst of a rebuild, if the Flyers have found a line that could realistically be their third line, and a very good third line, not just like a mucker grinder kind of, but an actual good third line that can do stuff like this consistently, is that almost as big of a win? It's clearly not as big as like getting the generational talent, but like is that almost as important to have something like that solidified across the board for the long term? Considering
they're all young, yes, it's very important. It's very important. You have that. You have 25% of your forwards. Well, I mean, if you really want to count the other guys too, like Mishkov and Konechny, and Couturier is going to be here for a while. So you have half of your forwards are guaranteed locked in right now.
I mean, Tippett's in there too.
Tippett. So, 7 of 12, are locked in right now.
And it's not bad. I mean, if
that's not bad. And fourth line.
And Lachenko is probably. Well, I'm just saying, but Lachenko's probably going to be a long term. You would assume.
Yeah. Sure.
So that's 8. Like if you were going to look.
No, but what I'm saying, this is what I'm trying to say to you. Like even if you look at the fourth line, those guys are dime a dozen, right? So no matter who you put into that fourth line kind of role, I mean, obviously you want the better of those group, but they're all kind of the same. You really are up front 2 forwards away from having a contending team. right? A top-line center, hands down, you need
Most
that.
important
Yeah, you
thing.
got to have that.
That one is the most important, and probably a second center. You probably need 2 centers. You get that, your forward group is in a good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why I think they're going to be a playoff team next year.
Oh, they should be.
I would be shocked. You guys know where I am on all these things. I would be shocked if this team I think that this offseason something is going to happen. I'm not saying that it's going to be like you're not going to make a huge unrestricted free agency splash and go out and get the number 1 center. I'm not necessarily saying they're going to go out and make the Elias Pettersson trade or something like it. But I think they're going to get frisky this offseason. Like I think that the RFA option is very much on the table. Whether or not it'll happen remains to be seen.
You got to remember they still have to clear some salary.
They do.
So I don't know if the RFA thing is this year as much as it could be the following.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I just think that they're going. Something in my bones is telling me that this offseason you're going to get another piece that people are going to get excited about.
That's fine.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
That's a good thing.
But you are right now. You're probably 2 forwards, 2 defensemen, and a goalie away from being the team you want to be.
And when you say a goalie, do you think Sam Ersson long term is going to be that guy? Or
No.
Okay.
No. Sam Ersson to me is fine as a number 2.
Okay.
I think he's a really good number 2, and maybe he could be a number 1 on a not a great team. He's not a Stanley Cup winning number 1 goalie.
Who's that? Urson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
They
think.
they
We'll
really
see.
seem
It goes down the road, but
Yeah.
they seem to believe in Bjarnason and Zavragan. I mean, it's still very early, especially with Zavragan, but
Yeah.
some of the early returns there in the KHL have been very good. So we'll see.
Yeah. For sure.
We'll see. Guys, hey, big win tonight.
Yep.
Solid win.
And this is what I want to say to you guys right now is enjoy the next week because then we're going to be living together.
Yeah, it's
After
going to
that.
be some crazy times. There's 7 games and 11 nights.
We're going to be here. And we're going to be so sick of each other. By the end of that thing, it's going to be like
Gonna be.
fights on this show. Like there won't be any hilarity.
More stick taps.
More stick taps.
Hopefully from above the desk.
Jesus, Russ. Mike,
Hey, I talk about sticks, and what does Bundy talk about?
I've signed a boob.
And on that bombshell, it's time to end. Big thank you to everybody who joined us live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you haven't done so already, please, seriously, like the video, share the video, and subscribe, even if it's to somebody that you know already watches the show. You actually taking the second to click the share button and send it in a group text or put it on Facebook or on X or whatever, it actually does help the show. So like the video, share the video, subscribe, and you can, of course, subscribe to the podcast feed over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. I think, I'm not positive, we're gonna chat about an episode this week. I already kind of have something ready for Four Nations. We did some post-game. We had Wayne Simmons talk about the Four Nations as well. That might be the episode for this week. We'll see if we're going to come back down or not. But try to bear with us because we're not complaining, but 7 games and 11 nights down here is going to be something.
You're going to get a lot of hockey talk.
Rob Greeley said we need that on a T-shirt.
Need what? What, the I signed a boob?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Need it on
I
a
think
T-shirt.
stick taps with you under the desk like you know.
Jesus.
It's been a mess of a night.
Yeah.
But we want to thank everybody who joined us today. Fitting that Mr. Bone 99 is the one who closes out the show.
Right.
Time for us to end. Thank you so much for watching.
Cut.
Good night.